Something like that. Well, that was in the middle of nowhere, wasn't it?
Okay, it's 7:30. We'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to the December meeting of the Forsyth County Amateur Radio Club. My name is Sam Poindexter. If you would, please mute your microphone until you're ready to speak. That way you'll cut out background noise. Expecting the meeting to run a little long tonight, so feel free to get up and go down the hall if you need to. Have a couple of announcements. January, of course, will be show and tell, so please get your presentations ready. Number 2, there will be no board meeting this month. Number 3, we will not have a ham fest in January as normal. If you'll recall, we're having our ham fest on April the 24th, 2021. Hopefully we'll be able to do that. I wanted to start off right quick with a brief synopsis of the year. Of course, our 90th anniversary celebration plans were pretty much stopped by the pandemic. And of course, Zoom was born. We met in person until March at the board meeting. We actually met on the air. Imagine that, hams being on the air. And after that, of course, we used Zoom. We had a successful January ham fest. We hosted the Rowan Club in February. We developed weekly technical talk meetings on Wednesdays and Friday CW meetings. We were able to finish the bylaws this year. We got all of our important documents stored on the website, and we changed our club trustee. Field day was very successful. We operated from home, and Don has been ciphering for a couple of weeks, but he and Mason have determined that the club score was 25,684. And of course, Mason had 5,232 of those points. We came in 12th in North America. We've had many outstanding presentations this year. Stuart Smalkin from the Asheville Museum, Riley Hollingsworth from the FCC, Marv Hoffman, ARRL NC Section Manager, Cesar Trefou, famous de-expeditioner, and of course, Bob Heil. Finally, we lost a member last year, Bill Thompson, KK4ZIU, silent key, and we really do miss Bill. So we've had a year to remember, even though we were hurt a little bit by the COVID. Okay, at this time, I'm going to call on Kent, give Kent the floor, and Kent's going to present our budget information. Kent?
Thanks, Sam. Okay, just kind of give you an idea of what has happened this year. That we started out the year last January with a bank balance of $2,800 and $2,892, and then as of today, our bank balance is $3,161. So even with the lack of meetings and this and that, we were able to shepherd the bank balance into where we had a small growth in it. Just kind of give you an idea of what some of our major expenses were. The biggest one that we have every year is our liability and equipment insurance. That did go up just a little bit this year because we've added some additional equipment, but we paid $856 roughly for both the liability and equipment insurance. We did have a $375 charge for legal. That was where we had the lawyer go over the bylaws to verify that everything was okay on that. A couple of other bigger expenses that we've had, our repeaters, that we spent $406 on the repeaters, and that's the tower rental for a year, and also the Stokes Wi-Fi. We did get a little bit of a deal on the Stokes Wi-Fi since they were having problems with that, and Dale was able to negotiate that down a little bit. And our other big expense this year was $593 for our web hosting. Now that luckily that's for a 3-year period, so we won't incur that for a couple of more years. Let's see. One other thing I will mention about 2020 is that if you have been using the Amazon Smile, we appreciate that. And just to kind of give you an idea of, I'm not sure of what date we actually started doing the Amazon Smile. I know it's been at least a couple of years, but as of the last check that we got, which was early November, we get it every quarter, that we had received $776 total from that over whatever period that had been. So that's a nice little figure. And actually the amount that we'll get in, it'll be February, that'll be coming up, that's usually our biggest one, because since that precedes or the holiday precedes that, and that's when everybody's spending their money. So so that's what happened last year. Now, just to kind of give you an idea of, since some of you may have not have been at the business meeting, I'm going to share my screen here and pop up. Can you see that okay? This is the budget that we, can you see that?
No.
Oh,
No, if you've got multiple screens, it may be the problem.
let's see, let me get rid of this. Well, I don't know. I may just have to give it to you here because I won't seem to share the screen. Oh well, I'll just tell you about it here. That, but I'll be able to look at you because I'm looking at it right here on my screen for some reason. That I did update the budget numbers just a little bit based on some input that we got from some members at the last meeting. I did add $250 in February for a rotor control for the shack. That'll help out with the online radio ham stuff that we've got going on. And I did up the membership dues in January. That so far that we've only had about 20 people prepay their 2020 or 2021 dues so far, which is quite a bit less than what we've had in the past. So we should be getting a good influx of dues coming in January now, since they are due by the end of January. The only other thing that I will make a note of is I did not put the April Hamfest in here, just because it's still in question. That if we do have it, that won't really do anything, but hopefully add about $500 or $600 to our bottom line going forward. But we are able to at least through July keep our goal of having over $2,000 as a bank balance. We do drop below that just a little bit towards the middle, towards the end of the year, but that should pick back up again by the end of the year. So as far as everything goes, we're generally in pretty good shape. Let's see if there's anything else here. That's pretty much it for the actual budget itself. There are a couple of things that I want to do during these cold winter months that are coming up. Is I would like to go back through and the chart of accounts, I want to go back through and see if we can put a little bit finer point on those, and maybe get a little bit better idea of exactly, we can pinpoint where the money's going. And then also want to dig into the membership numbers a little bit and see if we can get a little bit closer control over that on what's going on. But does anybody generally have any questions as far as the budget goes for next year? Okay, well, I guess that's everything here then, Sam.
Okay, thank you, Kent. I'll just mention that the dues for 2021 are $25. There's a single tier amount. And I was looking today, reading the bylaws of our club. Back in 1930, the dues were $9.50 per year. But if you compare that, figure it out with inflation, that's $150 in today's money. So dues have continued to stay down. And I would encourage everybody to get your dues in. You can use PayPal on the website, or you can mail a check. This information is on the website.
Well, Sam, I did have one other thing.
Okay.
And it just kind of ties in with what Sam was saying there. If you do PayPal, please in the notes section, just put your call, and generally we're going to know that this is going to be for 2021 dues if you're paying it now. But if you're not paying your dues and you're just making a donation or something, just make a note of that. And it makes it a lot easier for Stacy and me to kind of keep up with where the money's coming from. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Kent. Okay, at this time, Harlan is going to give us a December update on Oxcom Aries. Harlan?
Well, good evening, everybody, and Merry Christmas to y'all. Oxcom's been busy over the year. I did not get a chance to really figure out what our numbers were because, of course, with all the activities being canceled, we didn't have as many exterior activities, but we still maintained about 14 to 15 people checking in every Thursday evening throughout the year, which is not bad. I'd like to see that a little higher on Thursday nights, but we do understand. It is a short period of time, only 30 minutes, but if you can check in, please do. We give out a lot of good information. We started holding, like the club did, we started going into some Zoom training since we couldn't do it in person. And we've held every month on the third meeting, we've held our net has been on Zoom. And that's been very well received, although the last couple we've had lower numbers than we would have liked to have seen. Again, we give out good information. It's information you need to stay current with Oxcom. Anyway, the state's happy with us. We still are one of the #1 groups in the state as far as membership, as far as activities, and as far as training level goes. We are among some of the higher trained Oxcom folks in the state, and that comes directly from them. So we thank you for that. I'm going to real quick, Sam, just give a quick weather brief. I know everybody knows we got a little bit of winter weather moving in tomorrow. It's supposed to start tomorrow evening through midday Thursday. It's primarily looks like it's going to be an ice event for us. In the most of the triads going to be anywhere from a trace to 1/10 of an inch. However, the graphics show and the computer model shows that for Forsyth County, pretty much everything above the I-40 line coming through the county, which is north and west of the city of Winston-Salem, has the potential for up to a 1/4 inch of ice fall. Of course, the higher you go, the further up north of the county or west, you have a higher chance as well. What that means for those folks and for us is the very real potential of power outages, because we're supposed to have gusty winds as well. So be prepared for that. And we don't know what that may mean for Oxcom, but there's always a possibility that we may have something we have to do. Anyway, that's it. Thank you all. Merry Christmas.
Okay, thank you, Harlan. Okay, at this time, we'll hear from Dale, our testing and repeater report. Dale?
Oh, thank you, Sam. Can you hear me okay, Sam?
Yes.
Okay, just want to check the audio. Well, good evening, everybody, and extend Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody. It's good to see we have, I guess, about 41 people on, at least a few minutes ago I looked. I'll discuss two things. First, the repeaters and then the testing. For the repeaters, I'll go down each one. The Sourtown Mountain repeater, we've had pretty good luck with that. That's been up and running well. We've occasionally had a short problem as far as some interference, either accidentally or once or twice malicious, but we've pretty much been able to track that down, and knock on wood, that is subsided. As far as visiting the site, working on the site, we're hoping maybe early to mid-January we can get up to the mountain. The purpose of doing that is to perform some routine maintenance, maybe even put a standby repeater in to pull the existing repeater down and just check some of the parameters, make sure they're okay, and might need a little bit of adjustment, but in general, the system's been working out pretty good. The other purpose for going up there is to reconfigure our internet connections to match the new internet architecture that's been put up on the mountain. It cannot be done remotely. There's a couple servers and pieces of equipment I need to put up there and then configure it with the provider themselves. And then as we run the test, we could hopefully do a lot of the remote maintenance as we have in the past from home or any there is an internet connection. So the mountain's been in pretty good shape. The North Carolina Baptist Hospital, of which we have two repeaters up there, the 146.64 repeater and a 444.275 repeater. Both of those are unfortunately experiencing some on-site interference. The 6.4 repeater, which is also a fusion repeater, is accessible, but the range is limited. The 444.275 machine just has some very heavy interference. Once we get access up there, which I'll discuss in a moment, we're going to bring a spectrum analyzer, some other equipment, see if we can narrow down what is believed to be some of the on-site interference sources, and then come up with a plan for the next trip on how to remedy that in terms of filters or cavities, or even something as simple as a new piece of hard line. Okay, talking about the the North Carolina Baptist Hospital access, that has been closed to us, unfortunately, since the COVID-19 announcement back in March. Additionally, there's been some new management up there. Harlan, myself, and one other individual has been able to establish an initial meeting with the new management, and that was back in the October timeframe. And since that time, I've had a couple speed bumps in health and in surgery, but hopefully we're on our way past that. And there's some draft documentation that we're going to set up or already started to provide to the management. Basically, a new memorandum of agreement. Won't necessarily be a lease. The last lease we've obtained with the help of Don Edwards, thanks Don, was all the way back, I think, into the 1980s. So as you might expect, there's changes. We need to get something more current. So we have a verbal agreement that will do something a little bit more flexible, like a memorandum of agreement. They'll be reviewed by their legal department, of course. So as we talk to them, we'll get everything set up, which will include access rights, physical rights to the hospital, emergency conditions such as somebody falling off the roof, and we'll have points of contact if there's a problem, who they contact, and basically a escalation list going downwards if you can't get the first person to go forward, so we could show some integrity, and when there's something going on, folks in the club could step up to it and work with the management. The access to the repeater, both repeaters, we hope if we get some of this paperwork approved in place by mid-January, we can go up there, do initial assessment, and then come back maybe a few weeks later with some new filters or cavities, whatever it'll take to solve the interference and get those machines running. For Echolink, we have two servers, one of which is behind me at home. That's supporting a 145.47 repeater and a 147.315 repeater for the Vagabonds, and it's manually switched now, but working on an interface to switch that remotely. The second Echolink server is down. The computer needs to be rebuilt. I should have enough stuff in the basement to get that working, and we'll probably put it in place when we get access to the Red Cross and run that to 6.4 or to 444.275 machine. So before I go into testing, is there any questions on repeaters? Okay, having heard none, for testing, the testing for FARC, which is under the W4 VEC, our sponsor, was suspended back in March 2020 when the COVID announcement took place. We've heard the ARRL and some other sites have remote testing options. We've investigated that, but unfortunately our sponsor W4 VEC is not comfortable supporting remote testing options at this time. There's some alternate local testing that's been provided both in Greensboro, High Point. I saw Keith on here. Thank you, Keith, in the Lexington site. So as folks have sent us emails, we've directed them to that site. It's our hopes that as the COVID-19 restrictions are relaxed, that we could start FARC testing back up at the Red Cross, or if we're able to find some outdoor testing options. That's about all I could say as far as the updates we have on testing. Are there any questions on testing? Okay, having heard none, thank you for your time, folks. I hope everybody has a safe Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and we hope to catch you on the air. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Dale, for that detailed update. Appreciate it. Okay, next up tonight, we have a presentation by Don Edwards on QSL cards. Don?
Okay, thank you, Sam. Merry Christmas, everybody. Let me get, this is my bow tie for Christmas that Stacy graciously provided for me. Let me get this set up to share. I'm going to run through this presentation very quickly, but it will be available on the website. And let me make sure, is this showing the first slide?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So brief history of W4NC, and it's going to be mostly through QSL cards. This is a 1914 QSL card, which prior to Winston-Salem Amateur Radio Club, this was Doug Lee's. And I also have a 1912 copy of a 1912 QSL card of his. As you're looking across here, this was taken from the top of a house, and I-40 would be, or Business 40 would be down. There we go. There's my cursor. Can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay. I-40 is roughly, or Business 40 running through here, and that's where the BBT ballpark is. This hill is up here where Womack's Electronics used to be. They've moved to Peters Creek Parkway now. So that's kind of an early spot. 1923, I was able to get, and I published it in the newsletter, a piece of stationery that Bob Day had that mentioned that there was a Winston-Salem YMCA Radio Club. That stationery is in the hands of a private collector in California, and all I could get was a copy. This is a picture of the building in 1919, so that's about what it looked like when they were meeting over there, but there was a lot of interest in radio back then. This on the left, this is the first deed that I've got, that I found, that is of the property that was on Belview Street. And in 1929, it was purchased by Clyde Brewer. And I believe that was in the intent toward getting a Winston-Salem Amateur Radio Club started. And the first incorporation was December 30th, was filed with the state on December 30th, 1930. They hadn't put the property in the club name, and we know how agreeable a bunch of hams can be, especially when money is involved. So there were some concerns about people who were putting up the money for the property versus people who were just members, and I'll get to that at the very end. But we were reincorporated in 1933 as a private corporation to handle the property. And this is a copy of a postcard from June 1st, 1933. It's very hard to read, but it's calling the special meeting of the club to discuss that new incorporation. And here is a copy of the minutes of that first meeting, which is June 14th, 1933. The incorporation papers were filed probably about that time. I don't remember the date. Most of the QSL cards that follow, these are from my personal collection, and I've been digging these things out for about 40 years now. Here's the first W4NC card that has been able to be found, and it is from 1931. And if you notice something interesting, it says Jacksonville, Florida, and Russell Bennett. Back from 1918, when ham licenses were reissued until sometime in the 60s, the call sign you got was the call sign you got, and there was none of this vanity licensing. The FCC didn't have time to deal with this. I don't know exactly what went on here, but the Winston-Salem group was seriously connected group of people. Somehow they got this guy to give up his call sign and got the FCC to assign it. Winston-Salem Amateur Radio Club was so connected, the ARRL National Convention was in Winston-Salem in 33. I got a copy of that brochure, which I have never published yet. In the W4NC archives, I think this was a doodle where somebody was planning on doing a QSL. I don't think QSL cards were ever made of this. This is the first thing I can find. This is the first genuine printed W4NC Winston-Salem Amateur Radio Club QSL card. It is probably the only one in existence today. I'm not sure how many were done. If you'll notice down here, A.L. Heggie signed this. He was a key founder of the club. He was quite young at the time, as we'll see in a little bit. There's the back of it, February 2nd, 1933. Notice how expensive it was. It cost an entire penny to send a QSL card, which, as Sam pointed out, was a lot of money there. Before we get into the next, I've got to cover some perspective about what went on. And so we're going to step into the Wayback Machine. Kellogg, magneto telephones. Excuse me. Any guesses when the last of these were taken out of service in North Carolina? 1968. And I remember that because I was in high school. We were discussing this. It was in the newspaper. We were discussing this in Mrs. Newsom's science class. And a few years earlier, I'd spent a couple of weeks with my great aunt and uncle in Sparta, and you had to turn off the paved road to a dirt road to a dirt road, and then you got into this private driveway that went 3 miles back into the mountains, and you drove through streams. Their nearest neighbor had one of these, and it was a half-mile walk. 1930. You want to drive to Kernersville? You want to drive to Mount Airy? You want to drive to Moxville? You can take the train. This was not a insignificant undertaking, even if you had a car. In many cases, it probably would involve a horse. The 1921 was when the Federal Highway Act came about for primary and secondary roads. And so many roads weren't even paved. Galvanized steel, which we take for granted today, wasn't invented until 1929. The stock market crashed in 1929. 1927, on the left is the Western Electric 102 dial telephone. Dial telephones weren't available in Winston-Salem until well into the 30s. For people who had a telephone, it was you were probably a doctor, a lawyer, a judge, chief of police, and only wealthy people had it. April 17th, 1930 is when WSJS signs on the air, at least officially. There's been a lot of reports. Doug Lee put it on the air quite a bit prior to that. And you're wondering why we're going to go to Antarctica right now. 1929, Little America set in Antarctica. They had an ice storm too, and they had some bad conditions, and they had to abandon it in 1930. And there was a lot of radio reports out of Antarctica during that time, but not a lot of people had radios yet in the U.S. It was starting to come about. 1934, they reestablished Little America, and there was almost daily reports by ham radio out of Antarctica. And the way that captured the public imagination is very hard to understand today. What you had in your little world at your house a few miles away was pretty much a long way away. Few people had telephones. That brings me to the first picture QSL card, W4NC. Notice where it says right down here below W4NC, North Carolina's own Little America. We had a sense of PR back then. They took advantage of that publicity and rode that for a long time. This particular card, this is the earliest one I've been able to find. It's 1935, went to W1. Let's go to 1937. We're expecting a little ice storm. 1937, there was a serious ice storm throughout North Carolina. And telephone lines are down, telegraph lines are down. The only form of communication out of Winston-Salem, and actually for much of the state, was W4NC. We were even handling messages for the railroads. 2 months later, this is a card that's literally been around the world. W4NC worked an Australian station, and here's the back of the card. Notice here on the left, at that point, they were using a 6L6 in the output. That was probably about 50 watts. And sending a DX card, that was 3 cents. Here's another one from 1937, which I found. I should have pointed out here at the bottom, we got RST. RST didn't come along until about sometime in the mid-20s. So that's a W2. Here's a Canadian card from 1938. It still says North Carolina's own Little America. There's slight variations in the cards, so I know they were reprinted. This card, 1939. Notice anything odd? First, they've changed it. They've dropped the Little America because that doesn't sort of ring the way it used to. It just says Belview Street. And someone got the founding date wrong. That could be the first meeting, but the incorporation papers were December 30th, 1930. This is a very, very special 1949 card. The front doesn't look odd. On the back of the card lists all the members of record, and it turned slightly when I ran it through the scanner, so it's a little crooked. This was acquired from the estate of Doc Dennison. Adam Dennison right here. He should be the subject of a program himself, but I don't know quite enough about him. I got to meet him. This is another very special card. What many people didn't realize is W4NC for Winston-Salem Amateur Radio Club was the QSL bureau for the fourth call area. And when you batched, even though a penny postcard or 2-cent postcard wasn't that much money, doing a lot of them cost a lot. And QSL bureaus were coming along at that time, and we were the one that handled for the fourth call area. So you had envelopes on file, and they would drop one of these in there when they sent you the cards. Notice this is the 1952 version of the card, and they had corrected the date to the date is not corrected, excuse me, there. They're still running that. Here's a very nice, interesting card. It's also the only copy in existence. It's 1955. It's a newsletter card. Instead of doing the newsletter, just sent out a postcard to announce the meetings. And notice this also came from the estate of Adam, from Doc Dennison's estate. Here's a 1957 variation. The founding date has been corrected. It's been reprinted. Here's an interesting card from 1962. Using civil defense funds, we had a nice bus, and which was used for all sorts of ham purposes. It was a ham station on wheels. We had a lot of Gonzit communicators. This is a 2-meter card, big DX and of course that's AM. There were no repeaters back then. 1980 cards. There was a company here in town that did a lot of printing of point of sale displays and packaging and things, and there was a ham that worked there. He went to his management and said, look, we've got areas here when we do this printing on cardstock that gets cut off. How about we run some cards for the Ham Radio Club? They said yes. And I want to stress something here. We sent somebody over there to pick them up, and they weren't ready for whatever purpose. He was rude about it. And they looked at him odd and called the club and said, look, you're not getting any more of these. They'll be ready tomorrow, but we're not going to do this again. When you go out in public and you represent the club, you need to remember you're representing all of us. I don't have one of these anymore. I wish I did. This space is intentionally left blank because when we ran out of those, I made a bunch of paper QSL cards, and I didn't have time to go find the files and reprint those, but those were just black and white. We did 3. This is not the card we actually, I think we used some of these, but we didn't use all of these. These are W4 or for the Samuel Morse special event cards. I wanted to put those in there. Now I've got some really special, what I call clone cards. Notice anything odd? Like the call sign on here, W4BWC. Members of the club could use that picture on their own cards and print them. This, by the way, Urban Street is 2 blocks from my office. It's a fairly big house. Apparently it was a farmhouse. Today, it's a boarding house. Most of those people, I've even met a few of them. They're just trying to get through life, but at night, don't go over there. It's not an area you'd want to be. Here's an interesting clone card. Dutchie Harris. I've seen that name a lot on old FARC, Winston-Salem Amateur Radio Club documents. He lived in Lexington. And just as a point of information, these towers here were built out of wood. It's on this. Leroy Coley was one of the founding members of W4NC. He had some cards. And this is interesting because this is an SWL card. Someone was listening to the club in England, and it was very common for SWLs to request a card. And in some countries, you had to be an SWL and collect so many cards before you could get your license. All right. This is an interesting card. I wanted to kind of end with this. Al Heggie was very involved in the club. This is March 22nd, 1923. I have some later copies of his cards, but this is one that was obviously done by hand and sent out in purpose, and sent out by hand or with handwriting. How old was he in 1923? From the best information I can figure out, he was 14 years old when this card went out. Clyde Brewer, as I was doing this, who was very involved in the club, I found one of his cards. There's a ton. I have probably about 1,000 cards from the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s of club members. It's an odd hobby within a hobby, collecting these old cards, but a lot of this is just from interest in the Forsyth Amateur Radio Club, originally founded as Winston-Salem Amateur Radio Club. I forgot the year, but at some point, communications and travel became so much easier. And about the time that we got the 501c3, they changed the name of the club to Forsyth Amateur Radio Club to be more inclusive. Henry researched a lot of the history and was helpful on this, even though he doesn't know it tonight. So thank you, Henry. Dave Raleigh has been a frequent contributor to my antique QSL card collecting. Wilson Lamb has kept me straight on a lot of the history, but I really wanted to thank, and he's an SK now, Amos Clark, W4ROE. What got me started in this was about 1981. I visited Amos at his house, and he had cleaned out the old shack right before they sold off the property. And he gave me one of the cards that I've used to reprint our QSL cards. He gave me he gave me 3 of those. 2 of those were presented to the first ham of the year that we presented. We used homemade plaques for that since we didn't have a lot of money. That went to Wilson Lamb Sr. and Connie Conrad, K4BE. That's the end of the presentation. I thought I had in there somewhere the current card, which is a reprint of one of those cards that Amos gave me. We'll put this on the website, and then of course the program will be out there too. Just a quick review of how we got to where we are. We turned 90 December 30th, and quite an accomplishment. Sam, I'll pass it back to you.
Oh, thank you, Don. That was very interesting presentation. Makes you feel proud to be a part of the club. That's great. Thank you very much. Okay. At this time, Stacy is going to handle the drawing for the Bofang radio. Everybody that's been showing up at the meetings for the past few months has had their name entered for a drawing, and we're going to have that tonight. Stacy?
Thank you, Sam. I put everybody's name here in this little Tupperware bin that attended a meeting in the past few months. Let me give it a shake. Can I get my assistant? Pull out.
She did not earmark anything, I swear. Actually, thanks a lot.
You're letting Thing draw the card?
Yes, Thing is is drawing the card.
All right.
And
Who do
we have? Neil Foster, N4FN.
All right.
Well, congratulations. I thought I'll show a picture if my video's up of the blue bear thing. It's already programmed. Go ahead, Sam.
Is he here tonight? Stacy.
I don't see him.
Are you? Who's got the radio, and who will get it to the winner?
Don has the radio.
Okay.
Yeah, I have the radio. What was his call sign again, Stacy?
N4FN. November
Foxtrot?
4, Foxtrot, November.
I'll send him an email.
Okay, thank you very much. Hate I didn't win. But... Okay, at this time, we have a special award. We'll enter our awards portion of the evening. And at this time, Don has a special presentation award. Don?
Thank you, Sam. I can't see that the video's up. Notice the name is covered right now. This is lifetime membership in Forsyth Amateur Radio Club. And it is something that you cannot buy it. It is conveyed infrequently, once every few years. And I'm going to read this minus the name. Forsyth County Amateur Radio Club Incorporated takes great pleasure in conferring life membership upon somebody in consideration of his oeuvre of immeasurable contributions, including field day, numerous programs, sponsorship of Zoom, and leadership in all club activities. Harold Richardson.
All right.
Yeah, and we should be playing thunderous applause. And Harold, before you pick it up, you're going to have to define oeuvre.
Don, I don't think we saw that nice framed award.
Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Okay, I got you. It's very, very good looking award. Okay, congratulations, Harold.
Thank you.
At this time, I've got a couple more awards. And I want to say this, I said this last year at the meeting. These folks that win these awards, they don't want the award. They don't see that their contribution was any big deal. But in fact, these folks do a lot for the club, and we want to recognize that as appropriate. The two awards that I'm presenting, both of these individuals work on a daily basis, on a weekly basis for the club. And for the average club member does not recognize this work that's being done. It's done behind the scenes. But these two awards, these folks are working every week, untold hours of work for the club, and the only thing they get is the satisfaction of a job well done. They don't get any monetary reward. And I'm going to try and do a screen share on this first award. This first award is for Ham of the Year, and I'm going to see if I can do a screen share and get the right one. You just give me 1 second. I'm sorry. I've got these side by side in my photos, and they both look very similar. Hopefully I'll get the right one. So this award for Ham of the Year, and I will put this up here. Terry Brown, AK4D. Terry works on this website every day, and Terry has worked hard this year to get all of our club's documents on the website, and he really works hard to try and make the website interesting. And I think Terry has done an outstanding job on that. So Terry, for your work, congratulations, Ham of the Year 2020 for Webmaster Excellence.
Thank you, Sam. I really feel honored by that.
Well, I'm glad you do, and we appreciate all your work. The next award that I have, and I've done this for couple of years in a row. I call this the MVP award. Borrow that from the sports most valuable player. And again, this individual works on a daily basis for the club, just out of a desire to make the club better. So the 2020 MVP award goes to Don Edwards for his newsletter excellence. These newsletters are a work of art. Don, we appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. The plaque was unnecessary, but I do appreciate the fact that people enjoy the newsletter. I enjoy doing it, or I wouldn't be doing it. Thank you, Sam.
Okay,
you,
and
I want to see it on the wall behind you when you log on to Zoom.
I'll have
Actually, it'll be to your left.
Okay.
I may mail these tomorrow. If I've got an address, a good address. I want to make sure I've got Don's address. 1245 East Sprague, will that work?
That works.
Okay. Well, like I say, barring any unforeseen circumstances, and I'll probably mail these tomorrow so you can be expecting them. Okay, at this time, I wanted to touch base. Normally, during the December meeting, we present the officers for the next year. This year is a little bit different. Stacy and Kent and myself were asked to stay for another year. And this is primarily due to continuity through the pandemic. It's a really weird time. So Stacy and myself and Kent have agreed to stay for another year. But I did want to present tonight our new vice president, KM4SII, Mason Matrazzo is our new vice president. And Mason, if you're with us, you want to say a few words?
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, very good. Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks to everybody who allowed me to have the opportunity to serve as the VP here. I'm really looking forward to it. Everybody in the club here has been a huge help to me, and I wouldn't be where I am today in the hobby if it weren't for you all. We've had people that have advised me, lent me gear, helped me set up antennas, gave me lots of encouragement. So obviously ham radio is very important to me, and the club's very important to me. So I'm looking forward to being able to give back, and just wanted to say thanks to everybody.
Okay, Mason, congratulations. And yeah, everybody give a hand to Mason.
Congratulations, Mason.
Thank you.
We're going to get Mason to run one of the next meetings. I'll probably do January, and then I'll probably let Mason do February, and I'll take a break. We have really done very well tonight with our time. I was looking for this meeting to run late, but it fooled me, and somehow we're right on time. Does anyone have anything else tonight?
Sam,
Yes.
one thing I want to mention, I sent a letter to Terry, which he posted on the site tonight, which is the list of the people we had participate in field day. And I'd like to thank everybody that participated in field day and made it such a success. We have we have field day pins for all of the participants that will be passed out the next time we have a physical meeting. Again, thank everybody that participated and kept us in good standing.
Thank you, Harold. Thanks for doing that. Anything else? Anybody?
Sam?
Yes.
This is Doc. I believe you left out John Kippy. We lost him this year.
That is right. John Kippy, Silent Key, used to be with the club. More recently had not been, but yeah, he'll be missed. Thank you, Doc.
Also, I'd like to, I believe Albert, is it Noda or Nada? Welcome. I believe he's a visitor tonight. Is this your first time, Albert? It is first time. Okay, I plan to get in touch with you, Albert, and on behalf of the club, we welcome you to the club and hope you'll join us one day soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bruce. You're just waving. That's okay. I thought you had your hand up. Yeah, our don't forget our technical talk meeting Wednesday night. And again, there will be no board meeting. Remember to get your presentation ready for show and tell. In January, it should work well with Zoom, hopefully. Anything else tonight?
Yeah, Sam?
Yes.
Sam?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to extend on behalf of the club, thank you, excuse me, catch my breath, for your leadership and your leadership team. We had a particularly difficult year with COVID, but you've done a tremendous job in keeping things together, and with Harold's help and others on Zoom, and we really appreciate it. Looking forward to another year. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Dale. The club runs itself. Oh, don't give me applause. The club runs itself, and an illustration of that is for the Ham Fest. Somehow everybody shows up, everybody chips in, the job gets done, we work to take it down, and so the club pretty much runs itself. And I've enjoyed helping for 2 years, and hopefully I can we'll have another good year in 2021 and hopefully get back in person. I'll just say also that we can hang around tonight and talk till midnight if you want to. I do hope everyone has a Merry Christmas. I hope everyone will please stay safe. One of our recent members' wives tested positive for COVID today, and I don't want to give out a name right now, but the longer that this thing goes on, the more likely it is that you know someone that has had COVID, and there can be a big disparity between a very mild case and someone near death. So please be careful, stay safe, and have a Merry Christmas. Is there anything else tonight before we close up?
I hope to see everybody Thursday night on the Zoom meeting for Oxcom at 8 o'clock.
Okay, thank you, Harold. Okay, with that, do I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Hey, second motion. Okay, we're adjourned, and like I say, you can stay till midnight if you like.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas, Doc.
Merry Christmas, all.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas, John Boy.
everyone.
Merry Christmas, folks.
And a happy.
Merry Christmas, Emporium.
Please don't sing, Don.